Hello boys and girls. So today we're going to do a collage about the Great Barrier Reef. The first thing we're going to create is our midground. So the big blue piece of paper is going to be your background, and our midground is going to be a couple of hills to make up the sea floor. Now I make those hills pretty big. You want them to be almost half the size of that blue piece of paper. After you cut them out, you're going to overlap them. So that means putting one on top of the other on top of the other. Then you can start taking other pieces of paper and creating coral. To do the coral, I usually just make them kind of have like fingers. You can add some fish, some sea life fish, and then you're going to cut these out and arrange it on your paper. Maybe add some more coral, because now we're creating the foreground. The foreground is the closest thing to us. So this big pink tall coral, which takes up most of the paper, or goes up halfway to the paper, is going to be our foreground. So it's the closest thing to us. Then you want to arrange your paper the way you want it, and then you have to start gluing it down piece by piece. So it's like you're rebuilding the drawing that you just put together. So you have to take it apart and then put it back together piece by piece. Now when we're gluing, make sure that you go around all the edges of your piece to turn it into kind of like a sticker. And then stick it down and put it where you want it to go. Now if you make a mistake like I did, if you see that green piece of coral, it's kind of sticking up, and you can see the blue behind it. But what I decided I'm going to do is try to come up with ways to hide it. So I start cutting some green, and realize I can make some seagrass out of that green. And then I want to draw another big piece of coral to kind of hide that little piece of blue that's showing. So I cut that out and I glue that down. So now it's covered up and I can move on. Maybe I'll start adding the seagrass. And I can glue that down where I want it to go. And then I can start adding some other sea creatures, like a starfish. And all these things I looked up using, you can use your Chromebook, but you can look it up what kind of animals you'd like to put. I'll make these animals kind of big. We want to fill up that piece of paper. We don't want little tiny animals, little tiny coral on this big blue piece of paper. We want it to look like the Great Barrier Reef. And if you've ever seen the Great Barrier Reef, or pictures of the Great Barrier Reef, it is full of life, like we learned in the video earlier. There are 600 different types of coral that live in the Great Barrier Reef. There are many different types of species. There's 6 out of the 7 sea turtle species live in the Great Barrier Reef. So it's full of life. So we want it to look like it's busting with life. So there's my seahorse. I kind of move it around and try to figure out where I want to put it. And I decide the seahorse can go right there, or maybe up there, or maybe over here. But once you figure out where you want it to go, then you can glue it down. Now remember, glue it down so it becomes like a sticker, and then rub it down with the glue stick lid. So for the next part, we're going to create implied texture. So implied texture is when we draw our texture on top of our picture. So our picture is made up of paper, which is flat and smooth. But we can create different kinds of textures using lines of color to kind of bring our drawing out. So here I'm using white on my seahorse to kind of bring out his scales, make him look more like a seahorse. So this is where we add the details. Here I'm adding some stripes on my fish with an orange, giving it a blue eye. You can use any of the colors you want, but we really want to concentrate on making texture. So you can use circles or dashes, or like the letter C. If you look at my starfish, I tried to make it look rough. You can also use streaming wiggly lines across your page to make it look like a current is blowing. You can use the white oil pastel and add some bubbles. Now your oil pastel should be in 3 separate cups. There should be a cup that has a W on it for warm colors. That's W. Warm colors are going to be your reds, oranges, yellows, and pinks. And then there's going to be a cup with a C on it. That's for cool colors. And that's going to be your blues, your greens, and your purples, your dark blues, and your light blues. And then there's a third cup, and that will have your black and your white, and also brown, since brown is more of a neutral color. So I use my black to kind of bring out the details, add my implied lines. Actually, not implied lines, but draw the lines. And start using the black to kind of add more texture to my drawing. Black's really good at making things darker, so we can use it to kind of make our picture kind of pop out more. We use white to make things lighter, so you can use the white to kind of do highlights. So here I'm adding black to make things a little bit darker, kind of giving things an outline, and trying to add different textures. You can experiment with the kind of lines you want to use to make your textures. If you notice over there in the coral, to make it look bumpy, I'm using the letter C, but making the letter C go in different directions. So upside down C, a backward C. Then you can add some more texture to the seaweed. And then I'm going to use white to add some highlights. So I'm going to go on top of things, so the above, like the sun is shining down on top of the ocean. And when it hits these animals and the life below, it will start adding a little bit of light. So I'm using white, not a lot of white, just a little bit of white. I'll just keep adding white and black, and maybe adding some other colors here and there. Now I want to make sure mine is chock full of a living coral reef, so I add some more sea life, and then really just add what you can to make it look full of life. And once you're done, you can take these home. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.